Hi there. So, in this class, we're going to be writing for two-page papers. And in this mini lecture, I want to talk you through how these papers work and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to organize things and what they're about. So the first one we're getting started with, and it's due very soon. So we need to think about this idea of a two-page paper and how it works. So let me talk you through that in this lecture. So the most important thing when you get started is having a thesis or an idea or a position. So before you begin writing, you need to know what your thesis or your main topic is. And your thesis is the idea you will defend or expand upon, and ultimately what your entire essay is about. So your paragraphs will support, prove, and elaborate on your thesis. Right. So in the case of our first essay, your thesis is about the positions of Mencius, Glaucon, and Sun Tzu, and you've got to say which one you think has the more convincing position on the issue of human nature. Which one is more convincing as regards human nature? So your thesis will be a response to that. Either I think Mencius, his idea of natural goodness is the most persuasive, and I will explain why. Or Sun Tzu and his position that we need teachers and laws, and naturally we're kind of uncultivated and wild and not moral. And you'll explain why and defend that in the paragraphs that support your thesis. So that's the idea. In a thesis paper, you have a position on the question. Your position on the question is your thesis, and what you do in the paper is to provide arguments and examples that support your thesis. So write your thesis, put it in the introduction to your paper, and you'll defend it in the paragraphs, the main body paragraphs of your paper. So you might have 3 or so body paragraphs, which are the sort of main, the sort of meat of the essay, where you describe, detail, share evidence, explain your reasoning, explain your thinking for supporting a particular position, and just otherwise advance your thesis. So each paragraph should be a separate and independent topic that supports your thesis. Now you can start each paragraph with a topic sentence, which acts a bit like a thesis statement, except it describes the topic only of that paragraph. For example, you might say, in this paragraph, I'll describe how Mencius examples show the sort of natural goodness in humans, the sort of falling into the well and so on. Or you could say, I'll show how Glaucon's idea that we only do good by convention. I'll give some examples to show how that makes sense. Or I'll show why that is more persuasive than Mencius or Sun Tzu's view. So the topic sentence summarizes the point that the paragraph is making, and the point will support your thesis, and then you'll just spell out the details in the following sentences. So think about, what are you arguing? What's your thesis? If you're arguing that Mencius has the best solution, what are the 3 points that are the most important in making that case? And those will be the 3 points that will sort of you'll set out in your body paragraphs. So organize your paragraphs around those points, around the main points that you want to make in support of your case. So with a topic sentence like, Mencius gives convincing examples to show that human nature is naturally good. And of course, then in the body paragraph, you'll discuss those examples, the child falling into the well. Mencius convincingly argues that not everybody will act morally because their goodness might have worn away. So here you'll show that Mencius does have an explanation for the fact that people often do not act morally. That doesn't presuppose that they're evil, it just presupposes that their goodness might have worn away. The example of Ox Mountain he uses to support that idea in the text. Sun Tzu has a more realistic view of human potential than Mencius. So here you would show Sun Tzu's view is more realistic. It takes account of the barbarity of our nature, which has to be kind of suppressed and trained, and you'll draw that out and give examples to support that idea. You might say in support of Glaucon, Glaucon understands the natural motivations of people better than Mencius and Sun Tzu, and here you'll describe how those the motivations of self-interest are in fact natural to people. You might even say that even when we think people are being good, they're actually acting from self-interest. So those might be examples of a topic sentence depending on what your thesis is. And you'll start your body paragraph with a topic sentence and then go on to give support to that idea in the rest of the paragraph. Throughout, try and think of examples to support what you say that might make your position more persuasive. So the final paragraph simply concludes the essay. And in the final paragraph, you don't want to add any new evidence or anything new. Instead, you want to summarize your points from the previous paragraphs and tie them together. Restate the thesis, remind the reader of the points made, and that's all you need to do in your conclusion. Okay, so your basic structure is going to look like this. You're going to have an introduction, an introductory paragraph. So you can say something about the topic. People have discussed whether humans are good, different perspectives, and then you'll articulate your thesis statement. I will argue that Glaucon's view is the most persuasive because self-interest is a dominant motivation in human beings, or whatever your thesis is, right? You might sort of provide an overview of your main points there, and then you'll describe those in the body paragraphs. So in body paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, that's where you'll try and get that topic sentence, and then in the rest of the paragraph you'll support that with evidence, give sort of reasoning to support what you're saying, give examples to support what you're saying, and show that you know what you're doing. Don't worry about the number of sentences here. It doesn't have to have 5 to 8 sentences. Remember, you're working with a very limited two-page structure. So as long as you're supporting your points in your body paragraphs, that's all you need to do. Don't worry about how many sentences you're using. So you'll develop that in the body paragraphs, and in the conclusion, you'll summarize and maybe give a final thought on the topic and how you approached it. But the most thing is here, you're just summarizing the thesis and your main points. So when I grade the essay, this is the rubric that I will use to grade it. And it'll be out of 25, so there'll be 5 points for thesis. And here the question is there a clear thesis? Is it plausible, and is it related in a plausible way to the material? So does it make sense, and does it set out a convincing thesis? Is it precise enough to be convincing? So that's the thesis. Structure and style is how you organize the essay. Is it clear? Are the points clear? Are they supported? And is the sort of structure of the essay sufficient to allow somebody to read through it and to understand what it's saying and to grasp all of the points that are made coherently throughout the paper? So that's structure and style. That's how you organize the paper, the topic sentences, and how you support them. The use of sources. So you're going to use the text that we talked about and the text that we've used in the class to support what you say. So there are examples in Mencius about human goodness. Sun Tzu, we talked about his metaphors and his and the different arguments that he brings forward. So show that you know your way around the sources, that if you talk about Mencius examples, cite them in the text. Now, you don't have to give me a thorough bibliography and citation. But all you have to do is cite a word or sort of give a page number where this can be found, and that's perfectly sufficient. Okay, so it's not a research paper. You don't have to give me a bibliography. All that we're using is the sources that we're using in class. All that you have to do is just to point to the page number, or you can cite a sort of sentence or a phrase that's used in the text. Logic and argumentation is about how you support your thesis and how you provide evidence to support and undergird what you're saying in your thesis. So how are you supporting it? What are your points and how do they tie into the thesis? How do you support those main points? What examples do you use? Do they really support the points you're making? How sort of persuasive is your argument about human nature, about self-interest? What are you using to justify that claim? So logic and argumentation is about that, how you argue for your points, right? And in philosophy, it's not sufficient to just say, I think so-and-so has the best idea, I like this idea. We have to provide arguments so that other people can be convinced of our reasons for believing a certain position. So you've got to provide reasons and arguments that would convince other people to believe what you believe on this subject. That's logic and argumentation. Finally, mechanics is just is it readable? Does the grammar mistakes get in the way? As long as it's readable and there are no sort of continual errors that get in the way of understanding. Mechanics is just about the clarity of the writing and grammatical issues. So those are the 5 categories, and I'll give you a point out of 5 in each of those 5 categories. So really important, reach out if you need help. There's no need to struggle alone. There's no need to think that you need to sort of sweater over this. You can reach out and get help and talk to people about structuring and how to think about the essay. I have office hours in Zoom and in person every week. You're welcome to join. You can email me and let me know what time you want to jump on and join the Zoom meeting. There's a tutoring center at BMCC which has online tutoring or live online tutoring. All you've got to do is reach out to them. You'll find it's at online tutoring at bmcc.cuny.edu. You see the email and the phone number here. You can also find them through a Google search of BBC Online Tutoring. So reach out, make an appointment, and you can set up a session to work on your paper with a tutor. And this will stand you in good stead and really help. And I'd really encourage reaching out. Like I said, you don't have to do this on your own. You don't have to struggle alone. If you're not clear and you're not sure what you're doing, reach out to a tutor or reach out to me, and we can talk in office hours and sort of talk about how you're going to approach it. Okay, so good luck. If you need anything, there's plenty of help available at the tutoring center. I'm here to help you as well. So feel free to reach out and good luck. And if you have any issues, you can email me or reach out in office hours.